So I apologize. I actually exited out of the last video. This is a continuation of a fish room tour I'm doing on my tanks at the warehouse of Flip Aquatics. And so I'm actually talking about the moss rack right now, which is a central filtration system. It's a really detailed system. It's really cool. And so I'm going to go ahead and I don't have time to edit these together before I go on my trip, so they will be two different videos. I apologize for that. But I will release them all on the same day for you guys. And so let's go ahead and get into this rack. Let me start at the very beginning and show you how the water changes work and everything. And this is a cool system, so you guys want to stay tuned for this one. So right now you're looking at a complete overview of the system. It's kind of ugly because there's so much PVC showing, but you know, it's so neat too that it doesn't look terrible. But as far as tanks go in presentation, it is more of an ugly rack. So you guys know I have a 1,000 gallon per day RO unit. So needless to say, when you make RO water, you usually get 1 gallon of fresh water, or of good water, RO water, to 2 gallons of non-RO water, which is your wastewater. And so before, I was flushing this RO water, or the wastewater, down the drain. Just not using it, not utilizing it. It was just, see you later. And it was just getting shuffled into the expenses of the warehouse, no big deal. And so I decided, instead of flushing it down the drain, why not utilize that water to grow some plants? And so this is the waistline right here. It comes out, and it comes around to right here. And then from here, it goes all the way down the front of this rack. And inside of each rack, I have a valve. And so when I make RO water, it automatically pumps the wastewater into these tanks. And so that's how I do my water changes on all of these pond systems. And so eventually water will overflow out of this pond because, you know, when water comes in, it has to go out. And so I do an automatic overflow back here, which I'll get to later in the video. And so it automatically overflows out once it gets to a certain point. And so that's how I do my water changes on these ponds. And so think of this pond as a huge refugium, just a huge sump. And so there are fish in here. There's no actual filtration in here. But what I do have in here is I have a huge pond down, or a huge pump down below. And that pump pumps water up through the back. You can see it right here. And then it actually pumps it up to these valves. Sorry. Boom, 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 boom. And it's these valves, which you can see are leaking water in most cases. They pump water into here. Right? And so these are the top tanks. Each one gets water. And then these tanks overflow up here, down, and into the bottom tank, as you can see what's going on right here. And if you guys have never seen these overflows, how they work, and the reason I decided to use them are two good reasons. So overall, this whole thing costs about $5, roughly. I haven't done the cost in a while, but it's between $3 and $5. And so you got water from here to here to here. And what you do is you start a siphon. So what I did is I put a cap on the bottom of this, and then I put the shop vac right here, and it sucked water from the tank all the way up here into the shop vac. And so it got all the air bubbles out of it. So since you made that seal, water is constantly in here up to this point. And that seal can never be broken unless the water gets below this point right here. And so there's always water in there. And once water raises above this T, it overflows down. And so this never breaks. Power could go out. Water could evaporate. That seal is never going to be broken. So these are great overflows to have. The only thing is they're limited in the amount of overflowing they can do. And so that's the only bad thing. The other thing is snails and fish can get stuck in here. And you have problems that way too. But most of the time there's no problems at all. And so I have this flowing down, going into this bottom tank. And then it overflows out the back and down into these tanks. And so it's just a shared water system. And there's no physical, mechanical, biological filtration on these tanks besides the plants. And that's it. And so the way I counteract that is I make quite a bit of RO water. So I'm continuously doing water changes on these tanks every time I make RO water. And so I do enough water changes that these tanks never really have to cycle. Again, there's still good bacteria in there and all that kind of stuff. Like, for example, this tank with the big dude and the other big dude, this one needs a little bit more water than all the other tanks. So I got its water change a little bit higher than the other ones. The only thing I have to do on these tanks is when I'm doing a water change is I add dechlor, and that's how this kind of all works. I'll do tons of dechlor in here and then let it go for a couple hours, add more dechlor, so on and so forth. And so what I use this whole system for is moss and plants, because there's all RO water. Basically RO strips everything out of the water, so the wastewater has a lot of extra minerals and organics in it, and so that is great for plants. And so that is why I kind of did this. And so so that's pretty much how the whole system works. Let me show you the back side of it just so you can get a really good idea how it works. Again, I told you the pump comes up here. One tip that I have to do is, if you look right here, I actually have a valve on these. If you get a pump that's too powerful, you just turn this valve on and it turns into a little power head in this bottom sump, and it keeps the water stirred up pretty good. It keeps the fish happy, and so that is a huge recommendation for you guys if you plan on doing a system like this. But anyway, so this flows up here, the water's going up, it branches off and it comes up to these, and you can readjust these, and it works pretty good. And so that's a system. I might as well walk back here because I noticed there was one that was off. They do get clogged up every once in a while, and I will show you that right now. So if you look on this one, it's not on right now. So see how that gunk all came out? So now I'll readjust it to where it's a nice steady drip. So that's pretty good right there. No, a little bit more. I'm going out of town, so I don't want too much water coming in here. And this is the same deal. So again, it got a little clogged up. You just have to come back here and reset it. So those are pretty good. I'll leave that alone while I'm gone. And everything works out. So these bottom pumps, let me show you this one. The bottom ponds, more or less, they just have a big overflow like this. Again, wherever you put the T is where the water cuts off. And so this comes over, it goes down, and I have it going into this drain over here. The reason I put this on here, you don't have to have it, but I did it as a breather pipe, just in case, you know, this thing got clogged up. I have access to it, and it helps the water breathe so that there's no suction that gets formed that would stop the flow of water. So I do recommend that, even though it's not necessary, more or less. The other problem that you will run into with this system is when you're just doing straight RO water, the water is really cold, and you don't want your fish and stuff getting shocked. And so that's why I recommend heaters. And so with these Rubbermaid totes, you never want to put a heater straight up against them. And so one thing you could do is you can get submersible heaters that sit down there in like a pot or something like that. Hold on one second. All right, sorry about that, guys. So you can put them down there in a pot or some kind of container or a stand or something like that. But for me, I bought heaters that were not fully submersible. They have a minimum and a maximum water level. And so I actually cut this foam that you can get from Lowe's, and I've cut it big enough to where the heater could stick through it and just the top is. And so this heater actually raises and goes up and down with the water level, so I never have to worry about readjusting it or anything like that. So it just free floats up and down, which is awesome. And so that is how this system works as far as plumbing and all that goes. The next thing to think about is electrical. And so the way I did electrical is I have one of these timers, which is a hardwired timer. That you can get these from Lowe's or Home Depot, and it's all electronic, and it has battery life in it, so if power ever goes out, you don't have to worry about it. And so I plumbed, or I not plumbed, but the electrical, I got the main feed coming in here, and then I got all the other feeds going out the side. And so each rack has a plug right there. And again, right there. And I just kept wiring it all the way down. And then each set of 4 tanks has a 48-inch LED light. And that's all set into the timer. So again, these are the Fluval 2.0 freshwater and planted tank lights. And the reason I chose these is because they are dimmable. And since all these plugs are on the central timers, they're all on for 6 hours no matter what. If I was getting algae, I could dim this light so that they're not getting as much light in that amount of time. And so that's why I chose those. But the one thing that I didn't point out is the lighting's good, everything's going good. But down here, you have heaters, and you have a pump that is pumping water up. So I put in these 4-prong ones. Not 4-prong, that's not the right term. But it's a double gang box with 2 receptacles on each side of it. And so that way I have a place that has a constant hot power that is down here. And so, so I can plug all my stuff in that. The one thing that you want to have whenever you have electrical below other tanks that could get wet and shock someone is you have to have a ground fault. And if you're planning on doing this yourself, get a GFCI. It's a ground fault conductor or something. And so those will make it so that if the electrical ever goes to ground, it will actually just turn off. So there's no way that you can actually get shocked. It's a lot safer. And they recommend those, or they actually require them anytime you're around water. And so the only bad thing with that is your pump might kick it off or something like that. But it's better to be safe than sorry. And that's my philosophy on it. And so that's what this rack does. That's how it works. I plan on doing a lot of things back here. Real quick, what I want to do is, again, since these lights control 4 tanks, I want to keep all the same type of plants in those tanks. And so this light is dialed into those plant needs. And 4 different plants here, 4 different plants here, 4 different plants here, so on and so forth. And so inevitably there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different lights, which means I'm going to do 10 different plants in here. And so that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to do that. I'm still debating on what inhabitants I want to keep. Right now I'm doing some live bears. As you can see, my intern gave me these guys, and they are awesome. They're beautiful. And so I'm thinking I might start doing live bears. I don't know, just something fun. I kind of want to do microfish. I might do cherry shrimp back here. Put down in the comments what you guys want to see back here, because I don't really know. And so anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed these 2 shrimp room, fish room, shrimp racks, fish rack, whatever video you want to call them. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something and you guys could start your own fish room and incorporate some of the things you might have learned in this video. So you guys make it a great week. Hopefully I'm enjoying my honeymoon right now. I'm on it. And so you guys have a good one, and I will talk to you when I get back. Later.